Hey everybody, I'm Tarl Yarber with Fixated Real Estate, and I'm here to talk to you guys about a specific investment strategy that most people don't use. It's called wholetailing. It's just like wholesaling, but it's got a tail on the end of it. So what is wholetailing? I'm going to get into that in a lot of detail in this video. We're going to go inside in a moment. I'll show you this new project we just bought in Tacoma, Washington. We'll go over the numbers. We're going to go over some of the rehab challenges that you might face when you go to wholetail projects, because it's not as easy as you think. Sometimes it is, but a house like this, it wasn't as easy as we thought. So let me show you guys. Come with me inside as we talk about it more. All right, so we're here in the project, and one of the things I want to explain to you guys is what is wholetailing. Wholetailing is very similar to wholesaling. The only difference is that unlike a wholesale, where you get the property under contract and you assign that contract to an end user or an investor or a fix and flipper or whatever, you assign it for a fee. You're taking a contract that you got, a purchase and sales agreement, you're tacking on an assignment fee, and you're selling the contract to somebody else who's actually going to close on and buy that property. That's a wholesale. A wholetail, on the other side, is you take a property that you get under contract, and instead of selling the contract to an end user, you end up buying the property, closing it in escrow, you own it, and you turn around and put it right back on the MLS or market, and you sell it to typically an end user, somebody that's going to live in the house, or another investor, right? In this particular house here, it's the idea that we're having is that we're going to sell it to an end user. It's already in good shape. You can tell it's got some beautiful accent walls already, right? It even has curtains. I mean, look at this. It's got curtains, right? Normally we rip that stuff off, but this one we're going to keep it because we want to make sure nobody breaks into the house. Now, that said, the carpet's actually good, the vinyl's good. There's some other things that are pretty good in this house that we just need to touch it up. But before I get into what we're going to do, because I need to explain to you guys some of the red flags that pops up with wholetailing a property. Biggest thing is that you got to think, this house looks okay right now, but if you look closely, there's a lot of little things that need to get taken care of. And there's stuff in the crawl space, there's stuff in the attic, there's a roof, there's things in the kitchen that you're going to find when we go in this video that might deter an end buyer, or more specifically, upset a buyer's inspector. And that's where something that most investors forget when they go to wholetail is that the buyer, who's going to be somebody that lives in this thing, is going to get a buyer's inspector. And when they dig into this thing, they go in the crawl, they go in the attic, they go into all the nooks and cranny. Somebody that's a new buyer, especially in this market, this is a first-time home buyer market that we're in right here, might get scared away. So we need to fix those health and safety issues, those little nooks and crannies that might scare somebody away. And I'm going to show you those red flags in a moment. Before that though, I want to explain how we got this property and how you can help negotiate and sometimes work with sellers that might be willing to walk away from a house that's actually already worth a bunch of money. So let me explain the numbers on this house. We bought the house for $195,000 here in Tacoma, Washington. Now, the seller only just wanted to walk away with $10,000. They were in a dire situation, and this specific story on this one, without going into all the details, is that the seller was a female woman who was trying to get away from an extremely abusive situation. She reached out to one of the people we work with and said, I want to walk away. I need to get out of here. It was an extremely abusive situation with their former ex, and she already had a place in the East Coast, and she pretty much already moved there, and she just needed to bounce. The last thing she wanted was to list it on the market, deal with anything. She needed to cut all ties. She's like, I want to pay out the mortgage, get 10 grand. I know I can sell it for more, but I don't have the time to deal with it. I need to cut the ties and go. So that means you got to close fast, and you got to close with cash, right, in this scenario. The last thing we wanted to do was get a whole bunch of investors in here trying to like muck up the deal, looking to wholesale it. What if they go to close and that investor that we were going to assign the contract to doesn't actually show up and close on the deal? But that would mess up her life. So for us, we just buy the house, right? Close it, she's happy, she's extremely happy, and she walked away. So we buy it for $195, great. But this house, once we fix it up a little bit, will be able to be sold between $270,000 and $280,000, depending on the market at the time that we go to list it here in a few weeks. We don't really know because it's one of those little spots in this area that, hey, 270, maybe 280. Everybody hopes for 280 though, right? Now, rehab-wise, a typical wholesale, you hope to not put a whole lot of money into the rehab. We could put a ton of money in this thing if you want to replace all the carpets, all the flooring, put laminate everywhere, paint all the walls the same color, upgrade the kitchen fully, and go to town on this thing. And we could spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. And now all of a sudden, guess what? It's still only going to be worth $270 to $280 at that point. So, or maybe $290, not worth it. So how do we do this for the minimum? So we're thinking we're going to spend between $5,000 and $8,000 to get this thing actually up to where we believe it should be sold very quickly, between $270 and $280. Not a huge profit margin once you add in real estate commissions, seller closing costs. In the state of Washington, we have a 1.78% excise tax. So if you're watching a state from a state that doesn't have that, you're lucky. That means once we sell the house for $280, we have to pay 1.78% on top of everything else. So appreciate where you are. Anyways, so that said, so how are we going to spend $5 grand, $7 grand, maybe $8 grand on this property, right? Let me walk with you guys now as we go through the rest of the property and show you where we're going to put that money and why we can't just throw this back on the market. All right, so we're going to start with the kitchen. So come with me. All right, so the kitchen looks pretty darn good, right? You got this, it already has a nice tile backsplash. It has the countertops, it's got cabinets in it, it's already got appliances, it's got sinks, it's got fridges, it's got everything, right? It's got everything you need to be able to have a kitchen effectively. However, it's a little bit, just a little bit not updated. In this neighborhood here, a lot of these houses already have granite countertops and quartz countertops. They also, their tile backsplash isn't wavy like this one is. So the person that installed this didn't do it right. So now at first look, you might not really pay attention to it and see it, but we can see it from here. I don't know if you can see it on your camera, but that said, oh, we're gonna try to show you. That's fine. It's all wavy. Now, that said, do we make the decision of ripping the countertops out and ripping the backsplash out and redoing it? Now, if we do that, I know that that's going to be a $2,000 to $3,000 expense for us where we are in the state of Washington to be able to get that in there. Some of you guys might be able to do that cheaper, but that's a rough estimate for us here. I would love to replace the sink, right? And we definitely are going to replace, no matter what, the faucet. Now, is it a huge thing? I don't know. Will it attract sellers? That's where your comps come in. So make sure you look at the comparables in your neighborhood when you go to wholesale property. Don't make the mistake of thinking that you can get top dollar for a property like this when you're comparing it to other fix and flips in the neighborhood that are completely remodeled and gutted out, right? That would be a very, very big mistake. So we're gonna adjust for this, and we gave an option to one of our contractors to say, hey, let's look at the countertops getting ripped out, taking the tile backsplash off and just skim coating it with some texture and some paint, and put a 4-inch backsplash in with the granite, and let's see what that costs. And we'll find out once we get those final numbers to see if we want to take it to the next level with that one little wow factor on a property like this. Might help it sell. Might not help it sell for more, but it might help it sell quicker. Hope you're with me on that. Now, let's go into the bathroom. So, bathroom, same situation, right? So the bathroom has the same situation where countertops, no big deal. But this is not that big of a deal in this house because it's not the highlight. The kitchen's the highlight. But the things we got to really pay attention in this area is that the bathtub doesn't look so good. So we're going to clean that up, make it like nice and clean. Make sure we don't have any of the caulking factors and it's all dirty and stuff. So people don't like to take baths in a messed up, dirty ass bathroom, right? So we're going to clean that up, put some money into a deep cleaning of this entire project and make sure it's nice. We're also going to do all the touch-up paint, and we're also going to make sure that all the little factors, like there's no door in the mechanical room, we're going to have to replace that. There's some other issues. Some of the doors in this house are broken, so we're going to need to replace those. We don't really care that little Jimmy and Hannah and all those people here, how fast they grew, right? So we're going to have to do a lot of touch-up paint in the house. And now you ask yourself too, like how do you match all these touch-up paints if it's different colors? Well, the good news is there's smart people out there and contractors that can figure that out for you. Now, here's the thing that you cannot tell. Is I'm standing at a higher elevation right now than the camera guy, right? So this is one of those factors that could be one of those first red flags that can happen when you go to sell a house that you go to wholesale, right? For us, when we saw the pictures of this house and we saw what it was, it's very hard to tell if the house is level when you're looking at photos, right? So we go in here, there's a bunch of furniture, there's tables, there's couches, there's all sorts of stuff all over the place, and it's even then, it's still not the easiest thing to tell if the house is completely level. Now that everything is out of here, we know that this house dips down here and then hikes back up over here, and then starts to go downgrade this way towards the kitchen and then downgrade this way towards the hallway and the bathroom, right? Now what do? Do we spend a ton of money jacking this house up, leveling it out everywhere, making sure that it's perfect and clean? This is a 1910 Craftsman home in downtown Tacoma. For those of you guys in those beautiful areas in the United States where everything, the oldest house in your neighborhood is 2001, right? Well, the oldest house in this neighborhood is probably 1950, right? So that's like the coolest house in the neighborhood because it's all brand new, right? It's not. But this house in this neighborhoods are mostly 1910s, mostly 1912s. This is a post and pier house. It doesn't have a full foundation around the house. It's made out of post and piers. So if we start going in there and jacking that area up, leveling this out, it's going to create a lot of residual damage through all the sheetrock. And everything's going to crack, the door jambs are going to get all messed up, and now this little $2,000 fix of jacking up these little post and pier areas becomes a $5,000, $10,000 plus fix because of all the collateral damage that might happen from us doing this. Do we need to do it? I don't know, because that's where the comps come in. So make sure that you pay attention to your comparables in your neighborhood if you need to do it. This is a first-time home buyer area. This house was purchased back in 2015 by the original buyer, just like this, because it was a first-time home buyer. What are we gonna do? There's some amazing things you can do if you get the right contractors to help level some of these things out. So I'll give you one tip. It's called quick set, right? Is the house an issue? Is it sinking? No, not anymore. We had a full inspection. We had our engineers come out here check it out as well. We know that this is normal settling for a 1912 house with the post and pier system, right? We know that this area is settled a little bit faster there, that area is settled a little bit faster there. This area hasn't settled yet, right? So over time it will. Is it structurally sound? 100% structurally sound. But does it feel kind of wonky? It feels a little wonky. So what are we gonna do? What we decided to do is we're going to rip out this vinyl here that we have in this area, and the biggest steep valley that we actually have in this is actually in this spot right here. So this is where the vast majority of the sinking comes in this property. So for a little bit of ingenuity and a little bit of money, we're going to rip the vinyl out. It's going to force us to have to replace the sheet vinyl, which is only a few $100, so we're not really worried about that. We're going to roll the carpet back, right? And then we're going to take quick set, and then we're going to lay out some quick set here. And quick set is like a very, very watery liquid concrete, right? And it floats. It's what floors use to like level out flooring all the time. And we're just gonna level this spot out here. So that way when you leave and come in from the kitchen and you walk in, you don't feel like you're walking downhill. That's gonna be noticeable to the seller right away. We're gonna take care of that, smooth it all out. We'll put the vinyl back, we'll put new vinyl down, roll the carpet back, tack it down, and it'll be barely noticeable. In which case, more likely to sell the house. What are we gonna do in the crawl space? Can't show you the video of that stuff, but we're gonna make sure that's all completely sound too. We're gonna strap all the beams, all the posts, make sure it's good, because I'm thinking, what is a buyer inspector thinking? If a buyer inspector is thinking of all these little things and they start seeing that, oh, these beams and posts aren't strapped down, what's a few Simpson ties, they're called Simpson ties, look them up, to be able to throw on there and make it look cleaner, neater, more structurally sound, even though it's absolutely not needed at all to make this house good, but I'm trying to take away those issues that a buyer might think, or more importantly, a buyer inspector might think when we go to sell it. So remember that. Slopes, valleys, you might not see them in your properties, but what are the other red flags that you would be able to come across as a wholetail that might stop you from selling the house as fast as you think you're gonna sell it? I got one more I wanna show you guys, and that's gonna be outside. So let's go in the backyard. All right, besides the obvious, you can look at this deck. It's worn out. There's some pieces of wood missing already, right? Or sorry, that were replaced, forgive me. It's great. There's a lot of good deck paint out there. So for $150 for a 5-gallon bucket of deck mate from your local Home Depot, not this is a Home Depot requirement for you to go there, but you go to your local one right there, $120, $150 for 5 gallons. You can replace this. This probably only needs like 2 gallons of paint, right? With some really, really good quality deck paint out there. It won't cost you that much to fix it. But the thing I want you guys to notice the most is the roof. Now, the roof, at first glance, might not look too bad, but in further inspection for us, we're finding that it's a little bit of an older roof. This was a wake-up call for us because on the front of the house, it doesn't look anywhere near as bad. So when we first bought this project, we had zero inclination that we're going to be replacing the roof. So there's a little bit of a fear factor on our end that we're going, okay, we bought this house quickly, we didn't inspect the roof thoroughly, so can we recertify this roof? So we have some roofers coming out. We're gonna look at cleaning it up. We might be able to do a layover. We might be able to recertify it. I don't know where we're gonna go with that, but that's something to really consider. Check out your roof, check out your foundations, your electrical system when you wholetail a property, your plumbing system. Don't ever skip these things just because the house looks pretty on the inside. because it might bite you in the butt later when you go to sell the house and you find out that all the plumbing's failed, or that the electrical is knob and tube and really old and you weren't really expecting that, and you're not going to get the top dollar that you really wanted to, or none of your outlets are grounded in the entire house, or the roof is at the end of its life and you can't get a 5-year certification on it, so therefore the FHA buyer can't buy the house. So you got all these little issues that might pop up if you're not really careful. So remember, wholetailing is an amazing process that you can use if you can close on the deal, right? Besides wholesaling, it's a good strategy, especially if your assignment fee is freaking huge and you don't want the buyer to be able to see the seller to be able to see your large assignment fee. Secondly, wholesale is a great opportunity for you to be able to get quickly into a flip, right? Remember, don't overdo your projects. Check out your comps as much as possible to make sure you're not overdoing it. The granite might be an overdoing. We don't know yet. We're going to figure that out here soon, and we might save some money, or we might put a couple grand into it. We might be going too far. Not sure, but that's up to you to decide with you and your realtor. And also, last but not least, make sure you thoroughly inspect the property straight from beginning to end to make sure you're not missing anything, so that the buyer inspector doesn't catch it on the back end. And check out the rest of our videos as they're coming up, and we hope to see you guys more soon.